Saber Interactive. That's a name that has been in my mind since 2003. Their first game was Will Rock, an arcade FPS that is rather reminiscent of Serious Sam, which is why I was interested in it in the first place. I never got to play it until 2016, however. It was alright, although the experience wasn't perfect because the frame rate was stuck around 32 due to an incompatibility with Windows 8. Then someone released a fix for it a year later. Great. I'd like to show the game here, but it just plain refuses to be recorded in full screen no matter what I do. It works in windowed mode, but yeah. It works, but not very well. At all. Regardless, Will Rock got a mixed reception. 4 years later, TimeShift was released, but let's leave it aside for now. In 2011, two games developed by Saber Interactive were released. One is this pile of licensed crap. Seriously, you can finish this entire game in an hour. The other game was Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. Halo. Freaking Halo. How in the name of Duck did they get this job? And that wasn't the only big name they were involved with. Maybe it was because they made one very interesting game, which is what we'll be taking a look at today. TimeShift was released in October of 2007 for PC and Xbox 360, and in November of 2007 for the PlayStation 3. It was published by Sierra Entertainment, which at the time was one of Vivendi Games' brands. Sierra. Now that's another name I remember from long ago, and I'm sure that many other people do as well. But that's not where TimeShift's story begins. After Will Rock, Saber Interactive began working on their new project. It was to be a futuristic FPS featuring a highly advanced suit with the power to control the flow of time. The power to shift time, you could say. The protagonist, Michael Swift, is the first chrononaut, a fancy term for dude with the suit. His objective is to overthrow Krone, the dictator who controls the game's dystopian world. Originally, the game was supposed to come out in 2005, but the team at Saber Interactive wanted to work on an Xbox 360 version of the game, so it was delayed a year. Their publisher at the time, Atari, was rather skeptical and didn't expect Microsoft's console to be very successful. But of course, this is Atari. They've been a joke for decades now. But anyway, lo and behold, Atari went through financial troubles on that same year. Saber began searching for a new publisher, eventually landing a deal with Vivendi. With their support, the team was able to add higher production values to TimeShift. Everything seemed to be going quite well for Saber Interactive. And then, 1 week before the game's planned release date, Vivendi decided it was time to turn TimeShift into something greater. Up to this point, TimeShift didn't have a big budget. It wasn't supposed to be a big thing like Halo or Call of Duty. However, Vivendi wanted TimeShift to be placed in the same AAA category, competing directly with the big boys. As a result of Vivendi's requests, parts of TimeShift effectively had to be redone from scratch. Typically, this would be the moment when we are supposed to point fingers at the publisher and call them morons for meddling in the developer's work and messing things up. However, there's a demo of the old TimeShift floating around the internet. It's not very good. A lot of the final game's mechanics are already there. You can slow down time, you can stop time, and you can rewind time. You're equipped with a handgun, an assault rifle, and a flamethrower, all of which will can function a lot like their counterparts in the final game. What isn't so good is everything around these mechanics. Movement feels kind of jerky, weapons lack recoil, and the weak reactions from enemies makes gunplay feel rather underwhelming. There's also very little feedback when you're hit, even when you get hit by a rocket. Thankfully, the entire demo only lasts for 10 minutes. To be fair, Saber Interactive didn't have the budget or team to match the polish of AAA titles, and with a more experienced team, the concept's potential could be well executed. Still, I feel that the new TimeShift we got was a massive improvement in general. In fact, it's pretty nice overall. The protagonist is now a nameless physicist working on a project that led to the creation of 2 suits with the power to control time. These suits are also equipped with SSAM, an AI system that analyzes the situation and provides tactical advice in order to maintain the user's safety and prevent the flow of time from going bananas. The game starts with Dr. Aiden Crone stealing the Alpha suit, planting a bomb, and making a gigantic temporal mess. Naturally, you jump in the beta suit in order to stop Dr. Crone, but it's too late. The bomb explodes, people die, and you get sent to another time stream. Your ever helpful AI estimates that the closest equivalent is 1939. If this is anything like 1939, my history teacher was lying to me. After this, you apparently pass out and awaken inside a room while some generic nerd tells you to get up and escape. And so you do. And nobody minds your suit, because of course they don't. It turns out that Dr. Crone messed with this timeline and established the Crone Magistrate. These generic dudes are part of a resistance force, and of course you're going to help them kick Crone's grass. A few minutes later, you're fighting a giant robot. The suit's AI detects an incoming threat and performs an auto-return, but the suit malfunctions and warps you to an unknown date. This is where things get complicated. I've played through TimeShift a couple of times, but I'm still not totally sure what happens throughout the story. When the suit malfunctions, you get sent backwards through the entire game's events. However, your actions eventually also cause the creation of infinite parallel timelines or something. Most plot points are shown through pre-rendered cutscenes, also suggesting some strange deal with a scientist lady and the implication that you're more than just a mere physicist. But of course the missing links won't be explained anytime soon, because the game ends on a cliffhanger. And there's no sequel of any sort. But who cares? It's the action that makes TimeShift shine. Unlike its old flaccid demo, the game's final version has a lot to like. The arsenal at your disposal is comprised of some standard and some less than standard weapons, but they all look futuristic, unique, and most importantly, they look cool. They also all have their own outfire modes. The KM33 is a surprisingly effective handgun capable of firing single shots or bursts. The carbine is your usual assault rifle capable of automatic firing, but also comes with a grenade launcher attached. The Shattergun is a double-barreled shotgun capable of firing individually or both barrels at once. On the less standard side of things, you have weapons such as the Hellfire. Its primary fire works more or less like a submachine gun that fires incendiary rounds. The puns write themselves. The Outfire is a flamethrower. Regardless of which fire mode you use, you can be sure that whoever is at the receiving end won't be having a good time. Then there's the Thunderbolt, a crossbow that launches explosive bolts. Thunderbolts, you could say. They stick to things for a brief moment before exploding, and it kills most enemies with a single hit. It's a very common weapon too, so you usually won't run out of ammo. It just has one problem. The bolts are relatively slow, so hitting moving targets can be a bit tricky. If only there was a way to stop time. You can carry up to 3 weapons at once, along with grenades. You also have a basic melee attack and assume function for non-scoped weapons, which helps you line up those shots more easily. The main dish, however, is the 3 time control powers. Time slow, well, slows down time. Time stop, stops time. Time rewind, well, I'm sure you can guess what it does. Time slow and time stop are both incredibly useful in combat, not just because it makes it easier to shoot dudes in the head, but also because those same dudes will try their absolute hardest to wreck you. The vast majority of enemies are some sort of dude. You have your standard dudes, tougher standard dudes, flying dudes, shoot dudes, time slowing dudes, time stopping dudes. These last 3 in particular are complete jerks. The most effective way to deal with them is to use time stop and shoot them with the crossbow. This thing is borderline overpowered. Activating time stop when your shield is nearly broken also immediately causes it to start regenerating, allowing you to quickly get back in the action. Indeed, time stop is your strongest asset, but it drains your suit's power very quickly, so you need to be fast and deal as much damage as you can while you have the advantage. This is because, although you have superhuman abilities thanks to your fancy suit, you bleed just like the rest of us. And don't forget, time control is useless if you're dead. This combination of highly aggressive enemies and short bursts of superhuman abilities pushes the player to play more offensively. Entering a room with baddies, stopping time and killing them all before your suit's power runs out is not just one of the most effective strategies, but also the most satisfying. The weapons all sound and feel great, and running circles around enemies and hearing them yell in panic will also put a grin on your face. But of course, TimeShift isn't perfect. Being a AAA FPS means that you're obligated to have boring turret sections, although thankfully they're all very short. There are also a few driving sections that don't really add anything of value to the game, and the driving physics are more than a bit questionable. The time powers themselves are kind of underwhelming outside of combat. Most puzzles simply require you to use the appropriate power and walk away. Flames in your way? Stop time and walk through them. Deadly electrified water? Stop time and Jesus your way to the other side. Moving platform you can't reach? Rewind and jump in. You can activate the 3 powers by pressing the respective key combination, but the dumb thing is that you can just press F and the game will use the appropriate power, so why even include these puzzles? You can do cool stuff like stopping time and stealing an enemy's weapon, but why bother? Time Rewind also has no real purpose in combat besides avoiding a clutch grenade, which sticks to you and blows you up if you don't do anything about it. This is a rare occurrence, however. Combat is also at its best in small confined areas, since that's where you can find plenty of cover to protect yourself while your powers recharge, but there are a number of sections with wider areas. Oh, the game also has a soundtrack, but it's completely forgettable. Honestly, the only track I remember is the theme song, which plays in the intro cinematic. The title screen has a more mellow version of it, although you can barely hear it with the rain in the background. On a happier note, the game still looks rather nice even today. There are a few details that stand out. The environment in the first few levels is just great. Seriously, look at the floor and the rain. There is a bit of environmental destruction as well, which combined with the smoke and particles flying during combat makes for a very chaotic experience in all the good ways. Aside from a few niggles, such as character faces, the developers did a great job in this department. Unfortunately for them, however, a certain even more visually stunning game was released just 2 weeks later. Talk about bad timing. Finally, there's the multiplayer, and it's dead. The main gimmick is the time grenades. The single player's time powers obviously wouldn't work in multiplayer, so instead, players pick up time power-ups to recharge their time bar. They can then spend their time power by throwing time grenades, which cause various effects inside their explosion radius. There are a number of game modes, going from the standard deathmatch modes to some more unique ones. In King of Time, the first player to acquire the time sphere gains time power regeneration and becomes immune to the effects of time grenades. In Meltdown Madness, 2 teams have to prevent the opposite team's machine from completing its countdown by using grenades. Most interesting of all, however, is the amazing number of customizable options you can mess with. Damage values, gravity, speed. Christ, there are so many options here. You can even save presets for later use. Clearly, multiplayer wasn't just tacked on to the game because every FPS absolutely has to have some sort of multiplayer. The fact that TimeShift never got any real recognition for its multiplayer is kind of disheartening. It's obvious that there was a lot of effort put into it, which is very surprising considering the game's troubled development. After doing a bit of research for this video, I think I gained a bigger appreciation for this game. While it's not good enough for me to call it a masterpiece or anything close to it, TimeShift is a game that I have no problem recommending to any fan of first-person shooters. It's what you could call an 8 out of 10 game, an exceptional, but highly entertaining. 2007 was a big year for the genre, with many notable releases. TimeShift is far from the first game that people think of when they look back on 2007. Perhaps with a bit more polish and a bit less competition, TimeShift would have been the FPS that defined the year, but it wasn't meant to be.